So I'm Justin from Kobylka Reptiles, and I'm going to show you how to sex your ball python. We're going to show you how to do it 2 different ways, by popping and by probing. We're going to show you on babies and adults and help you figure out how to do it yourself at home. And we have 2 very generous volunteers here today, one of which I happen to know is a male and one is a female. We're going to first talk about how to pop them, which is a really great technique if you can learn, but it takes a lot of practice to get it right. And then we're going to talk about the foolproof way to do it via probing, which does not take a lot of experience. Okay, so the first thing is we'll start with the boy first. So the main thing, and you just follow my technique here, it takes a lot of time though, your hands just have to kind of get used to it. The main thing is to hold the animal in your hands. You're going to put your thumb right here below the cloaca, and I press down a little bit, not hard, I press down just enough to kind of fill the space there, and I pull back towards me just slightly. You see how much pressure, it's not very much. And then I take my other thumb and I roll forward, and you end up with 2 hemipines. Basically, all this thumb is doing is holding the space down so the hemipines can't push into they have to come out when you roll your thumb forward, and I'm not pushing hard. To find out the right amount of technique and pressure just takes a lot of practice. And the issue that people run into is that if you're trying to sex a snake and you truly don't know if it's a male or female and you're learning, you don't know if maybe you're doing the technique correctly, but it's just a female like this one. So you see on the female here, instead of having those red hemipines, they have scent glands out here to the side, and usually they're white. They can be a little bit pink, but they're out here much further to the side. That's a female, there's nothing to come out there. And then a male again, we'll show you again so you see the difference. The male hemipines. And these ones aren't really everting all the way, but you see how they also have scent glands here on the outside of the hemipine right there, but the hemipines are pretty much bright red. So really it just takes a little bit of effort. So the main thing is if you have a snake that you know is a male and you want to practice a little bit, you're going to have to just do it. I wouldn't suggest you do it every day or anything like that because you can't injure the snake just from overuse. But if you want to try every couple weeks and you know it's a male, keep practicing until you can actually reliably get the hemipines out. And then once you know you have the technique down and you sex a female and you know that you don't get hemipines, you know it's not you. So we're going to talk about the foolproof way. If you don't ever have enough animals or you don't ever want to get really, really good at popping, probing is a nice, easy way. It takes a little bit longer because you have to prepare a probe, but it's actually very, very reliable. Okay, so we still have our same 2 volunteers here, and we have a probe. Now these can be purchased on eBay or Amazon, a lot of different places, actually you can get them on a lot of the reptile supply sites, like Reptile Basics. That's the one I typically use. I know there's other ones too. So what we use is you can use a tiny bit of Vaseline, or you can probably use water a lot of times. So you just want a little bit lubricated on the end. And we're going to show you the difference between when you probe a male versus a female. Again, you're going to hold the tail very similar, only you're not going to press your thumb anywhere there. You're just going to kind of hold the tail flat. Now the 2 hemipines, you remember there's one on this side and one on this side. So we're going to take and follow on the side and just press in gently. So you see the male here is going in about that far, which on the male, that is about almost 6 of the actual individual scales. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is a male. Now just to show you can actually do that on either side. There's 1 hemipene on the left here, that deep. On the right, that deep, same thing. We're going about 6 scales deep. This is definitely a male. What you're doing is you're actually pushing the probe very gently into that space where the hemipene is. So on the female, what you'll see is that the probe goes in much more shallow. Now this girl's really, really just shy, so she's bald, that makes it a little difficult. But you want the kind of the tail somewhat straight there so that you can get a straight shot with the probe. The female is already stopping, you see that? It's barely going in, just a tiny, tiny bit, because she has a little bit of space there, but no everted hemipene that we're filling up there. So 1, 2, 3 scales approximately. It's going in deep, and that's what a female. This is extremely foolproof. It does not take any kind of special technique or anything to probe correctly. All it takes is that you hold the animal correctly and you be gentle. So if you're unsure about popping or you necessarily don't think you have enough animals to learn how to do it consistently, probing is the #1 way to sex your ball python on your own, and it just costs the price of a probe kit, which is about $10. So now we have 2 more volunteers, and these are older snakes. They're about 800 to 1,000 grams each, an adult male and a subadult female. And we're gonna talk about how to pop these and how to probe them as well. So adults are much more difficult to pop, and that doesn't mean that you can't do it, because once you have the technique really down, and it's kind of second nature, it's no problem at all to pop an adult. But if you're unsure about it at all, or you're not quite sure of your technique, then you'll find it much more difficult to get it right. So this is an adult male. See there? You only have to see one hemipene to know you did it right. There's the second one. It just takes a lot more pressure, but you don't want to add a lot more pressure if you're not sure you're doing your technique correctly, because then you could injure the snake. So that is an adult male hemipenes via popping. So here is our adult female, and we're going to try to pop her as well. And we're going to see, we're basically going to do exactly the same thing. We have the scent glands off there to the side, but we're not getting any sort of hemipenes or anything using exactly the same technique. Again, if you're not comfortable popping hatchlings, you're not going to get results that you can know are correct when you try to do it on adults, because it's just the same technique but more difficult. So you really need to refine it with the babies to know if you're doing it right or not. So we're going to take the exact two same adults now, and we're going to probe them, and so you can see the difference between the male and the female. All right, so we lube up our probe just a little bit, and again, we're going to take and straighten out the tail. This doesn't hurt the snake at all. We're going to be gentle. And the male, look at this. Because those scales are much longer, it goes in much deeper than it would on a hatchling. That's about 6 to 7 scales deep. A very clear male. Okay, here's the female. See, the female only goes in about 3 scales. The male, on the other hand, would be about that deep, so it's about half as much on the female. All right, I hope that was helpful for you, and if you're working on your own snake, your ball python, to find out if it's a male or female. If you're interested in ball pythons, be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot.